I will cover three issues very quickly. Why we invaded Iraq, have we succeeded in invading Iraq, and some of you may be surprised to hear what I'm going to say, and are we going to leave Iraq? Why we invaded Iraq? We did not invade Iraq because of democracy. That's nothing but a cover-up. But the real reason, and I'm going to mention some of them to you, and if you put me in the mood, I'll talk about more. Number one, to reduce Iraq's potential as a regional power in that neighborhood. Iraq has the resources to be a regional power, and if Iraq is a regional power, it will be a threat. Listen to what I'm saying, a threat to our own interests in that neighborhood. So we must do whatever we can to get rid of that potential. Two, to divide Iraq into two or the three semi-independent states and let them fight with each other. We divide them in terms of sectarian and ethnic tendency and let them fight with each other about territory and about resources, and we are to be Mr. Honest Broker between these states. And that's what we are doing right now. Three, to privatize the Iraqi economy, because it's a state-dominated economy, to privatize in particular the oil industry in Iraq and tie the Iraqi economy to the U.S. economy. Number four, make Iraq as a military base for operation, not only within Iraq, but also in the region. Did we succeed? And believe it or not, the answer to that, a qualified yes. Did you hear what I said? Did we succeed? Is a qualified yes. It is not a complete success, but we have done a lot of things in pursuing our imperialist objective in that country. Number one, we built and we finished building the largest embassy, American embassy on earth. It is as large as the Vatican City in Rome. And if any of you visit the Vatican City, you can understand how big is the American embassy in Baghdad. It has branches all over Iraq, and it costs approximately $1 billion. $1 billion. Number two, we built more than 14 military bases crisscrossing the country, and one of them called Balad military bases, about 30 miles north of Baghdad. It is as busy as the Cadwich Airport in England, which is the second largest airport in England. That gives you an idea how busy is that base near Baghdad. Three, we succeeded in dividing the country at least in two semi-independent states. The Kurds in the north, for all practical purposes, they are independent country, except they don't have the official independence. And if you follow what is going on between the Kurds and the central government, they are fighting tooth and nail about what? About territory, about resources, about oil, and about everything. And guess what? We sent Biden to be the broker between the two and what have you. And that's what we wanted to do. We will be the broker of what is going on in that country. Four, we dissolved the Iraqi National Army intentionally. It's not a mistake. It was intentionally we dissolved the National Iraqi Army. We dissolved the Iraqi National Police, and we replaced it with what I call the American Iraqi Army, and we replaced it with the American Police Army. Their strength today about 700,000. And today, the American Iraqi Army and the American Police Army is the major source of employment in Iraq. And the soldiers and the police are paid very handsomely in comparison to the other people. And this army is trained by the American, depend on American weapons, and they cannot do anything without the approval of what the American advisor are going to tell them. And fifth, we privatized the Iraqi economy. I mean, when Bremer was in charge, he issued more than 100 degrees. And the whole idea behind the 100 degree to make Iraq, quote unquote, a true free market economy. And they are doing their best to privatize the oil industry, but they are facing many, many resistance. And so far, they had not passed the oil law, which was written in Washington, D.C., and transmitted to Baghdad for discussion. They have not passed it yet. But surprisingly, Exxon signed already an agreement with Iraq a few weeks ago, and then there's the British and one of the Chinese company signed another agreement to exploit one of the biggest oil fields in Iraq called Umaytha or Basra in the south. And guess what we are doing else? Bremer, and if you heard about who's this guy? He was the guy who became our front man for the first year of our occupation. He issued an edict telling the Iraqi farmer, you cannot use the seed which you produce yourself. Guess what? You have to buy them from what? That's exactly correct. And these seeds cannot generate themselves. So they have to create a total dependency on an annual basis. You have to buy them and rebuy them and buy them and rebuy them. And that is the way it is. And we shall overcome. Yeah. Are we going to leave Iraq? I'm really going very fast. You have to permit me to do that. Otherwise, I don't want to be in the mood. Are we going to leave? I'm going to say it now, and I'll say it tomorrow, and I'll say it after tomorrow. We will never leave Iraq. And whoever tell you it's Obama or anybody, they are big liars. We are not going to leave Iraq next year. We are going to change our tactics. That's all what we are going to do. We are going to reduce the number of forces to probably 60 or 50, and they are stationed in different bases throughout Iraq, and they are going to pull the strings behind the scene. We will call them non-combat. I don't know how you can call a soldier non-combat. I really have no idea, but this is what they are going to call them. And they are going to say the following. They are there to train the Iraqis. And they are there for another reason, by the way. The Iraqi army cannot defend itself against their enemy, the neighboring country, because they do not give them, quote-unquote, the proper equipment. They give them just enough, a few guns. Can you imagine an army without airplanes? They don't have anything of this sort. So they are going to say, the Iraqi is asking us to stay. We are not there because we don't want to leave, but the Iraqi are after us to stay in that country. And that's what they are going to say. So we are going to leave maybe 60,000, but they don't talk about something else. And guess what is that something else? They don't talk about the private contractors. Did you hear what I'm saying? Have you ever heard about them? There are about 130,000 of them, and they say nothing about it in their agreement. And that agreement, by the way, was supposed to be approved by the Iraqi people in the summer. You know the agreement which we have last December of the joint forces between the U.S.? It was supposed to be approved by the Iraqi people in plebiscite. And nobody talked about it. It's gone and nobody mentioned anything about it. We are not going to leave. The only way we are going to leave if we are forced into leaving. You see, no occupier, most occupier, not all occupier, no occupier throughout history, at least in the recent history, left voluntarily. Did you hear what I'm saying? We did not leave Vietnam because we love to leave. The Russians did not leave Afghanistan in 1979 because they love to leave Afghanistan. The French, they are supposed to be, they love democracy too. They did not leave Algeria in 1962 because they love democracy. And I have to say, and some of you are going to be upset, Israel did not leave South Lebanon because they love to leave South Lebanon. They were forced into it in varieties of different ways. So don't kid yourself. Occupiers don't leave voluntarily unless if they are forced to. Now the question, do you think the Iraqi will be able to force the occupier soon? And my answer is no. It's going to take a long time to come. There are all sorts of reasons why the resistance movement it is not that strong, but we can talk about it later on. But all what I wanted to say to finalize my conclusion about Iraq, we are not going to leave, period.